A difficult problem sits in front of you. You read it once, twice. You try to focus. But within seconds, your mind reaches for escape. A tab. A notification. A message. A quick scroll. A faster thought. An easier stimulus. And just like that, the problem is gone. Not solved. Abandoned. What if the real crisis of our time is not that people are becoming less intelligent, but that they are losing the ability to stay with anything difficult long enough to understand it? Because complex problems do not surrender to quick attention. They demand something older. Something rarer. Something modern life is quietly eroding. Cognitive endurance. We didn't just lose focus, we lost staying power. There is a difference between being smart and being able to think. Real thinking is not instant. It is slow, messy, uncomfortable. It requires holding incomplete ideas in your head while your brain resists the urge to run. That is cognitive endurance. The ability to remain mentally engaged with a hard question, long after it stops being entertaining. And that ability is becoming harder to find. Not because human brains suddenly changed, but because the environment around them did. We live in a world optimized for reaction, not reflection. For stimulation, not struggle. For fast answers, not deep understanding. And the result is subtle but devastating. People can still consume information, but fewer can wrestle with complexity. The brain now lives in a culture of interruption. Modern life does not merely distract you. It trains you. Every notification teaches your brain to expect interruption. Every short-form clip teaches it to expect novelty. Every instant answer weakens its tolerance for uncertainty. So when a hard problem appears, something that requires patience, memory, comparison, doubt, revision, your brain interprets that effort as friction. And friction now feels wrong. Because everything else has been designed to remove it. What used to be normal mental effort now feels like mental pain. That is why so many people sit down to work, study, write, or think, and feel exhausted before they even begin. Not because they are incapable, but because their mind has been conditioned to avoid prolonged cognitive strain. Task switching is not free. Psychologists who study multitasking have shown for years that switching between tasks carries a measurable cost. The brain does not glide cleanly from one task to another. It has to reconfigure goals, rules, and attention. That is why task switching slows performance, especially on unfamiliar or cognitively demanding work. Sophie Leroy's research added another layer to this. When you leave one unfinished task and jump to another, part of your attention stays stuck on the first one. She called this attention residue. In other words, even after you move on, your mind does not fully move with you. So the cost of interruption is not just time. It is contamination. A little bit of the previous task follows you into the next one. A little bit of your clarity gets left behind. And after enough switching, your thinking no longer feels deep. It feels fractured. Why hard thinking now feels strangely painful? Have you noticed this? Reading long things feels heavier than it used to. Working through one complex idea feels almost irritating. You reach for your phone not because you need something, but because you need relief. That matters. Because the mind that cannot tolerate mental discomfort cannot do serious thinking. And all complex problem solving begins with discomfort. The confusion before understanding. The frustration before insight. The boredom before breakthrough. But if your brain has been trained to escape low stimulation effort, then the very conditions required for deep thought begin to feel unbearable. So you do not stay. You skim. You sample. You react. You move on. And the hard thought never gets the time it needs to become a real thought. Our attention is being pulled faster than before. Researcher Gloria Mark, who has studied attention in digital environments for years, reports that average attention on a screen has dropped to roughly 47 seconds before people switch. She has also linked more frequent attention switching with higher stress. That does not mean every person is doomed or that every screen is harmful. But it does suggest something important. Our minds are adapting to rapid shifts, and that adaptation comes with cognitive and emotional costs. And here is the hidden danger. Complex reasoning does not happen in 47 seconds. Scientific thought does not happen in 47 seconds. Original writing does not happen in 47 seconds. Moral judgment, strategic thinking, deep learning. None of them survive inside constant switching. To solve a hard problem, your brain has to hold multiple pieces of information at once. A cause, an effect, an exception, a contradiction, a possibility, a trade-off. That temporary mental workspace is often called working memory, and it is central to planning, reasoning, and problem solving. If attention is repeatedly broken, that mental structure collapses. You forget the variables. You lose the thread. You restart. Then restart again. This is why interruptions feel so destructive on difficult work. A difficult task is not just paused. Its internal structure is damaged. And rebuilding that structure takes energy. Sometimes so much energy that the brain would rather quit than reconstruct it. Interruptions directly hurt working memory. Research on working memory and attention consistently shows they are tightly connected. A 2024 study on task interruption found that interruptions harmed performance on working memory-related tasks, and that repeated interruptions compounded the damage. Reviews of sustained attention likewise describe it as a core ability for keeping focus on relevant information over time while resisting irrelevant input. Put simply, if attention keeps getting pulled away, the systems needed for deep reasoning weaken in the moment. So when people say, "I know what I want to do, I just can't stay with it," that is not always laziness. Sometimes it is a working memory environment under siege. The death of deep reading is the death of deep processing. Books, essays, long arguments, difficult lectures. They all demand something modern media rarely asks from us. Continuity. You cannot truly understand a layered argument by consuming it in fragments. You cannot build sophisticated judgment from disconnected bursts of stimulation. You cannot become a serious thinker while living entirely at the speed of the feed. Deep reading matters because it trains the exact mental muscles shallow media neglects. Patience, sequence, inference, memory, synthesis. When deep reading declines, deep processing often declines with it. And when deep processing declines, people still know more facts, but understand fewer systems. Digital distractions reduce comprehension. A recent meta-analysis synthesizing 32 studies on attentional distraction in digital reading found that distractions in online reading environments were associated with weaker comprehension. The effect was not identical in every setting, but the overall pattern was clear enough to matter. When reading is interrupted by competing attention demands, understanding suffers. That is especially relevant for a culture that increasingly learns through screens while also being constantly interrupted by them. This is why many people can finish a page and remember almost none of it. They were not truly reading. They were surviving interference. Why this is bigger than productivity. This is not just about students getting worse grades, or workers becoming less efficient, or creators feeling mentally drained. This is about civilization-level problem solving. Because the biggest human problems are not simple. Climate systems are complex. Public health is complex. Economics is complex. Education is complex. Technology ethics is complex. Democracy itself is complex. These problems cannot be solved by outrage, slogans, or fast takes. They require minds that can hold tension. Compare variables. Delay certainty. Stay with ambiguity. Revise conclusions. If a society loses cognitive endurance, it does not just lose concentration. It loses the ability to think at the level its problems demand. Sustained attention predicts real-world performance. In a 2023 study published in Scientific Reports, sustained attention abilities in a sample of more than 700 students were positively associated with targeted academic skills like math fluency and reading comprehension, as well as broader academic performance. That does not mean attention is the only factor that matters. But it strongly suggests that the ability to sustain focus is not a minor skill on the side of intelligence. It is one of the foundations that lets intelligence become useful in the real world. And what is true in school is often true in life. Talent without sustained attention rarely reaches full power. The crisis feels normal because everyone is living inside it. That may be the most dangerous part. The decline is quiet. No alarm goes off when your tolerance for difficult thought drops. No warning appears when your mind becomes dependent on novelty. You just notice that books feel harder. Silence feels stranger. Boredom feels unbearable. Deep work feels unnatural. And because everyone around you is adapting to the same environment, the damage begins to look normal. But common is not the same as healthy. A culture can normalize fragmentation and still be cognitively weaker because of it. Can cognitive endurance be rebuilt? Yes. But not with hacks alone. Not with motivation quotes. Not with one good morning routine. It has to be trained. Slowly. Like physical stamina. You start by staying a little longer than your impulses want. Reading one more page. Thinking 5 more minutes. Resisting the urge to switch. Letting boredom return. Letting the mind stretch. Letting frustration exist without immediately anesthetizing it. Because deep thought does not begin when the task becomes easy. It begins when you stop fleeing the difficulty. That is the turning point. The moment you realize the discomfort is not the signal to escape. It is the entrance fee to depth. The future belongs to people who can still stay. In a world of endless stimulation, attention becomes power. In a world of fragmentation, continuity becomes an advantage. In a world addicted to immediacy, the person who can stay with a hard question gains something rare. Actual insight. Not borrowed opinions. Not recycled summaries. Not algorithm-fed certainty. Insight. And that may become one of the most valuable human abilities of the future. Not just being informed, but being able to think long enough to understand. Maybe that is what is really vanishing. Not intelligence. Not information. But endurance. The ability to remain with complexity long enough for clarity to emerge. The ability to sit in the dark before the idea arrives. The ability to keep thinking after entertainment has ended. And if that ability disappears, then the hardest problems of our age will remain unsolved. Not because humans lacked knowledge, but because they lacked the stamina to stay with it. So the next time your mind reaches for escape, pause. Because that moment is bigger than it looks. It is not just a battle over distraction. It is a battle over whether your mind still belongs to depth. The modern world is not only stealing your attention, it is training you to abandon complexity. The question is, will you keep leaving or will you stay?